This is an exploration into one of the most intimate, yet poorly understood, aspects of human connection: the performance of pleasure. Tonight we are going to look beyond the surface of the bedroom and confront the question that so many partners silently ask themselves: why do women fake orgasms, and how can you actually tell? For centuries, sex has been portrayed as an instinctive, purely physical act, but the truth, as we uncover it through science and conversation, is far more complex, rooted deeply in psychology, culture, and the dynamics of power within a relationship. The act of faking an orgasm is incredibly common, far more common than most of us are willing to admit, and it is a symptom, not of a flaw in the woman's body, but often of a breakdown in communication and intimacy with her partner. It is a moment of unspoken compromise, where the desire to avoid conflict or shame overrides the desire for authentic pleasure. And this profound disconnect between what happens physically and what happens in the mind has been studied extensively. When researchers attempted to categorize the motivation behind this act, they developed what is known as the faking orgasm scale, or FOS. This scale breaks down the complex reasons into 4 core categories, each telling a different story about the woman and her relationship. The first, and perhaps the most surprising, is what they call altruistic deceit. This is faking for the sake of the partner, a gesture intended to bolster his ego or validate his performance, effectively giving him a participation trophy for the experience. The second reason stems from fear and insecurity, a desire to avoid an awkward conversation, to sidestep the negative emotions that might arise if she were honest and admitted that the experience was not fulfilling. The third is a curious one, called elevated arousal. The act of faking itself is intended to spur her on, to try and bridge the gap between where she is and where she wants to be, using the performance as a mechanism to perhaps summon the real thing. And finally, the most pragmatic of all, is sexual adjournment. Simply wanting the experience to end, a shortcut out of bad or mediocre sex, prioritizing sleep or silence over genuine connection. But beneath all these reasons, what truly lies is a profound inequality in pleasure. Let's delve deeper into that first point, the altruistic deceit, because this is where the cultural pressure points become most visible. We live in a society that, despite progress, still places enormous emphasis on male sexual performance, measuring success by a finite endpoint, usually the male orgasm. This cultural script tells women that their role is often to be the receptive partner, and when they fail to achieve the required climax, they are socialized to feel responsible for their partner's feelings of failure. So, she offers a quick, loud, and decisive performance, a theatrical flourish to smooth over the moment and protect her partner from the perceived disappointment. But think about the quiet tragedy of this exchange. She is sacrificing her own truth and her future pleasure for the fleeting comfort of his ego. By faking, she teaches him that the current approach is successful, locking them both into a pattern that guarantees her continued dissatisfaction, a painful cycle of deception that chips away at the intimacy they are supposedly building. The second, and often more damaging reason, is rooted in fear and insecurity. And this is where the mental side of sex comes fully into play. Many women carry a heavy emotional and mental load into the bedroom, thinking about the bills, the children's school lunches, the stress of work, or perhaps the unequal distribution of chores at home. These thoughts are the natural enemy of arousal, because true pleasure requires mindfulness, the ability to be fully present in the moment, to let the critical, planning part of the brain go dark. When a woman is constantly judging herself or is distracted by the day's tasks, she enters a state called spectatoring. She isn't in the experience, she is watching herself and her partner have sex, critiquing her own body or worrying about whether she looks desirable. This self-consciousness acts like a cold shower, shutting down the emotional and physical pathways to orgasm. Faking in this context becomes a defense mechanism, a quick exit to avoid the vulnerability of admitting, I can't get there right now because my mind is too loud, or I feel too stressed and exposed to truly let go. For partners, the greatest act of love is often not physical prowess, but the simple, consistent act of taking stress off her plate, showing up as an equal partner in life so she can afford to be an equal partner in bed. So, if the mental and emotional landscape is so complex, What about the physical signs? Can a partner truly tell the difference? Physiologically, a real orgasm is a fascinating event. It is defined by a specific rhythmic action. The pelvic floor muscles contract at very consistent intervals, roughly 0.8 seconds apart. This involuntary muscular response is the physiological signature of climax. Furthermore, brain imaging studies show something even more profound. When an orgasm occurs, the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for planning, judgment, and worry, essentially shuts down. The lights go out in the thinking part of the brain. You can't worry about the past or plan the future. You are dumb and happy, completely engulfed in the moment. These are the technical signs. However, experts are quick to caution that focusing on these technicalities is missing the point entirely. Men who try to catch their partner in the act of faking often overassume their partner's satisfaction, reinforcing the very pressure that made the faking necessary in the first place. Trying to monitor the physical signs turns the intimate act into a clinical test, which is the fastest way to extinguish genuine desire. The true solution, therefore, lies not in surveillance, but in vulnerability and open communication, shifting the focus from the endpoint of orgasm to the enjoyment of the process. For the partner seeking to support real pleasure, the most effective strategies are relational, not technical. First, embrace foreplay as a necessary component of the sexual experience, not an optional appetizer. Studies show that women often desire sex to last between 15 and 20 minutes, and that includes the essential time for physical and mental warm-up time that allows the female pelvis to become properly engorged with blood, which is just as necessary for female arousal as it is for a male erection. The simple and profound phrase often used is, if it's not an 8 on an arousal scale, do not penetrate. This sets a clear boundary and ensures the woman is physically and mentally ready for the next stage. Ultimately, faking an orgasm is a symptom of a deeper conversation that needs to happen. A conversation about equality in effort, equality in vulnerability, and equality in pleasure. The goal is to create a space where honesty is rewarded, not punished. If a woman can truthfully say, "I'm not there yet, but I'm enjoying this," without fear of causing disappointment or awkwardness, the need for the performance simply dissolves. The work required for a great sex life, the patience, the communication, the mindfulness, is the same work required for a great resilient relationship. It is the final frontier of personal growth, and it is a journey that requires two people to commit to truth, to kindness, and to the shared belief that they are both worthy of authentic, uncompromised pleasure.